Hi everyone, this is Laurel with Guided by Love, and all of a sudden before I turned the video on, my throat started acting up, so this is really funny. That may mean that for the collective, there's things that you want to say, there's things you want to get out for this journey, but this is my intuitive soul daily tip. So I chose to use Ancient Stones Rebecca Campbell deck. I had to look at the name of it. Um, And excuse me, my throat's like, wow. Stone of Destiny is the card that came out. And we all have a destined purpose, place on this earth plane. And this is such a magical card. If you remember the movie Thor, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but you know, um, I think it's the first one, and this is spoiler alert if you want to turn it off. Um, but there was, I think it was a hammer, but it was stuck in a stone, a huge stone, and it was mythed that um, whoever had the power of the ancient hammer, this ancient relic, could remove it from the stone, and it happened to be Thor. And it was like when he removed it, it was like all this power came rushing in. Even more power came rushing into him to use for good. And this is reminding me a lot of that. We're on this journey. We work our way deeper and deeper into our truth by peeling back layer after layer. But here she is, connecting with spirit, and she's got that sword of truth in hand, and she's pulling it out. And as she's pulling it out, or she's connecting with it, it's crumbling. It's crumbling around so she can lift it out. And this is kind of what happens on the journey is we peel back layer after layer after layer, and we get to more and more truth about what our purpose is, why we're meant to be here, about truth, about love, what love really is. And so it just, that this reminded me so much of it, and that's kind of what happens on this path. We're all guided, on our journeys, subtly, or big, through big signs. But there's always our free will choice. We can choose, even though we're guided to go one way, we can choose to go another. And I have an example of this. I it was 2 weeks before I was to get married. I had a dream that 2 weeks before, that it was going to end in a death, and that meant the death of the relationship. And that's exact 9 years. Fast forward 9 years later, I woke up and I was like sweating, um, and I still chose to go ahead with it, even though I had this prophetic dream. And 9 years later, that was my biggest that was one of my biggest, that was my first awakening, big one. 9 years later, it ended in my transformation, and the ending of the relationship. So even though I was given that message by spirit, I still went ahead, and there was something my soul needed to learn in that relationship. So there's never any wrong choices. It's just that they're preparing us and teaching us what we need to learn through our soul. Um, and it gets us closer and closer with all of the lessons. It gets us closer and closer to our truth, to our true truth, which is love and light. And, you're given the power on this journey. You're given everything you need inside, the power, the passion, the ambition within, to navigate the lessons and soul growth, and leading you closer and closer to your soul, your purpose and passion. Um, and so it's learning, learning your lessons along the way, learning to look within yourself. I'm sorry about clearing my throat. It just acted up immediately, but it's learning to seek within, instead of outside of ourselves, like we've been taught to do for so long. So, I hope this message helps. I hope that I've said everything that I wanted to say, but this picture just reminded me of that clip from the movie Thor. And it's funny because this is the sword of truth. And what is Archangel Michael wield? The sword of truth. And he's known as the Thor of heaven. So, Spirit connected me to that. So I love you guys so much. Have a wonderful, magical Thursday, or whenever you see this. Namaste.